Now, the continuing rift between brothers Brooklyn and Romeo Beckham, it made headlines this weekend.
Yes.
While Prince Harry publicly said he hopes for reconciliation with his father.
Joining us now to talk about family feuds and how we can resolve them is life coach Mark Fennell. Good morning to you, Mark.
I haven't slept. I haven't
slept over the poor Beckham brothers.
Quickly fill us in, Myrne. What's the story with them?
So, well, they spend too much time together is what I think. But anyway, Romeo's brother, Romeo is going out with a girl who once went out with Brooklyn.
Okay.
So there's an issue.
There you go.
Right.
Mark.
Yes.
Now,
that is a problem.
but what impact kind of rivalry had? Like, we're not talking about them, but what for a
I know,
family?
I was talking to David about it, but anyway, he's working through it. He's working through it.
But what impact can a rivalry between brothers, sisters, have on a family?
Massive, because the sad truth is that the average, they have a study on this in the UK, that the average family feud can last from anything from 3 years to indefinite, which is kind of scary. So they tend to go a lot longer when they're in families because you have a person, I suppose, in a way, oh, why should I give in? Why should I say sorry? They've done this, and then you've also got history. So, there might be little things that have happened over the years. And then it all comes back to memory when there's a big fallout. Oh, you've always been like this with me, or you never treated me okay. So there can be, should we say, a feud can kind of fly off, but there can be a lot of impact because of the history that might be there, or an undercurrent. In saying one of the worst things that can happen in families is unresolved conflict, and then you have this slight contempt underneath it, and then when it does blow up, it blows up nuclear. So that's the risk with families. And the downside is, if you have a larger family or a family or slightly larger, people look for alliances. So you might have the oldest trying to gather the youngest, as an alliance, and then pitting one against the other. And then there's the behind doors conversations, and then there's the family table conversations, and both are quite different. Yeah. So you've got setups and hijacks and all sorts of things. I know that sounds quite sinister, but it does go on.
So what do you see as what do you hear as the main reasons of family rivalry sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, the big one is the personality conflict. So basically you have two strong personalities that just don't get on. They're pitted their heads against, and there's no compromise. That's one of the biggest things. But then there's other things like, you might have the golden child in the family, or the youngest, the baby of the family always gets spoiled. Then you have the middle child syndrome. But you also have things that don't get discussed quite often, but are quite relevant. Because the study in the UK, they studied 2,000 families, and they found that parents can sometimes have a sense of lack of achievement. And when they see the kids do very well, there can be a sense of, I'm delighted for them, but I feel, a bit jealous of the kids. And people don't talk about that, but that's a thing. So it was 25% of the families came back with where the parent conflict would be based on parent being jealous of the child, which is kind of crazy when you think of it.
That's very interesting. We'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111. An awful lot of these things, they can happen after a parent is gone, you know, when money and wills come into the sort of a situation. There's one trope that we always hear, and that's a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law trope.
Yes, it's a big one.
It is a big one, but it's like something that was, it's historical, and history was written by men. But anyway, is it something that causes an awful lot of conflict?
It is, because you have a thing called, I suppose there's an identity, or should we say, we'll call it a power struggle. I don't mean that in a literal sense, but you've got a woman that's come into a new pond that's trying to find her identity, find her feet and be herself. And then you've got the big fish that was already in the pond going, hang on a minute, oh, she's taken my son away from me, or my son was never like that until she came along. But the flip side as well, oh, she was such a great girl until she met him, or whatever the case might be, or so whatever the scenario. So you have these kind of people, I suppose, conflicting because they're saying one is trying to find their feet, find their identity, so they stand up for themselves, and they'll say things that maybe the mother is not used to hearing. And I don't always like saying it's the mother-in-law, because it's not. Sometimes the daughter-in-laws.
But maybe it should be the actual person who's married, the son. And it should be the son who's causing all of this.
In relationship, conflict, it should be the family resolve it within the family. If you're in-law, you're part of that family, yes, but it's your partner who's biological should be doing the spokesperson.
Yeah. Okay. But reconciling then, the main thing is how can you reconcile it? How can you get it back on track? Because we saw there with Prince Harry, saying that he wanted to reconcile with Prince Charles, or King Charles.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think, sometimes time that happens, we start to really kind of separate the meat from the bones and realise, hang on, we fell out over this, but this is my mum or my dad or my sister or my brother. Is it worth this? So the first thing is take the macro view of the scenario, zoom out and go, OK, you've had your differences, maybe it's personality clash, accept that might be the case. How do you reconcile? Start the conversation and say, look, I know we disagree on things. I know that we've clashed on things, but I still want you as my brother or my sister or whatever. I still want us to be that family, even if we can't always be in each other's ear or whatever. But starting with that viewpoint.
Is it true to say, look, we can't be best friends,
Yes.
but at least we're family, and at family occasions, we can all just get on.
Yeah, the first thing is start with ownership and say, look, I know I've probably upset you. I know we don't always get on, but I want us to have some sort of family connection for, even the kids' sake or whatever, but some sort of family. Start with the ownership, start with the I statement. And then go into if you've got to take ownership on responsibility or say sorry, say sorry. But at the end of the day, show them what your intentions are to resolve it. And if you have to kind of say, agree to disagree, listen, let's not bring up the time that I broke into your piggy bank, that was a long time ago. But say that, but don't go in with confrontation, go in with communication and trying to reconnect.
OK, so don't go directly onto the BBC rather than talk to your
It's
family.
not
We'd love
the
to hear
best.
from you today. 0896 111 111 if there has been any sort of family feud or someone who's causing issues. All of this shall remain anonymous. If there's ways that you've solved them, that would be great as well. Mark Fennell, markfennell.ie is where people can find you.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me as always.